Hey crafty cuties, welcome back to Paper Terrace, and if you're new, I'm Jessica. This is part 3 of my making a journal collection video, and today we are at the point where we are going to start organizing an assembly line and get started on creating some of the things in these journal packs. So if you didn't see part 1 or 2 where I kind of went over the entire organizing and overview, how I figure out what I need to buy for journal collections. Those will be linked below. I should have a playlist by now. So for today, we're going to actually get started creating, and that is the most fun part. And because I have everything organized and I have all of the supplies and materials that I will need for this collection, it's going to be, I think, pretty fun and not too challenging. So we're gonna get started. Just if you want a quick little overview, because maybe this is the only video you're interested in, I am going to be recreating a journal pack that consists of a mini journal and 12 little packs that have handmade embellishments to go along with the journal. And I am making 22 packs. So I have a prototype right here, and I'm going to essentially be copying this and creating 22 of those packs. I am planning to go through one by one of these elements to create. However, I'm going to be honest and show you guys how I really do it. And sometimes I may jump between two different things. Again, let's not talk too much. Let's just get in it. I do want to start with the biggest part of these packs, which is the journal. So today I'm going to get started by, I'm going to take the little tags out and not really count this in as a part of the journal, at least for now, so that I can just focus on kind of one thing at a time. So this is what the journal looks like, and of course each one will vary a little bit, but you kind of get the idea. It's a patchwork style fabric mini journal. So I'm going to get started by cutting down 22 bases, and I already have 2 here, but the rest will be made out of these policy envelopes. So I'm going to get started with trimming these down. So I will be cutting these down to 6 inches by about 9 inches. And so I have 11 policy envelopes, which I'm using as the base. And I'm just going to go ahead and start by, let's see. So this needs to be cut down to 9 inches. Okay. So a lot of this, like I said, it's going to be redundant, and I will be kind of speeding through, and then I'll just try to keep you up to date as I go along for how long things are taking, you know, that I'm cutting out. But if I'm going to be doing the same thing over and over and over, I probably just won't leave all of the footage in, because I think you guys would be really bored. And sometimes I feel like as I get going also, I get much quicker. And sometimes I get bored of doing one thing, especially if it has to do with, say, the journal covers, because it's going to be more work, and I'll be working on it for quite a while. So that's when I tend to kind of jump around, where I say, okay, I want to take a little break from maybe the sewing part, and then I'll go into one of the journal packs. But for the most part, I try to stay on track until one task is done, because that is going to be the most efficient way. So I will see you back here when I have all of these cut down to size. And it's nice to have a nice, good trimmer for this, because, you know, I can cut several things at a time. In fact, I could probably cut more than I'm doing here. As with most of my journal collection, each cover will be slightly different. So right now, I am cutting down fabric to cover the entire journal. And these are patchwork journals, but I will be actually covering them in one fabric, and then I do a patchwork design on just the front. So I thought it would be a little bit quicker if I just go through and cut down all of the fabric in advance so that I can go ahead and do like all of the gluing together. And I have a couple different fabrics also that I'm using for the bases or to cover the entire journal. So I'm gonna just keep going through, cutting down to size. I do find that it works better for me and it's a lot more efficient to just go ahead and do all of one step at once, just like I said, in that assembly line fashion. So I will just continue doing this, and in fact it might even make sense for me to I'm going to be working with a lot of scraps and things, but I could go through and cut down bigger pieces so that the patchwork design goes a little bit quicker, but I will decide that once I get this all taken care of. It took me about an hour to cut down all of the bases and just the first fabric covering. So now it is time to get started. Sometimes I'm just like done with prepping and I just need to get into the creating part, because there's so many more steps that I can always take to kind of get prepared for the next step or get even more organized, but I try to balance it the best I can with the, you know, what feels the best as well. So I am now going to go through each base and glue the fabric straight down. I am probably using my Tombow Mono Aqua Glue. However, I have one that was sent by Maddie. It's a PVA glue. She really likes it for fabric to, or paper to fabric. So I think I might try it. I've been having issues with a little bit of bubbling with the Tombow, and I'm kind of annoyed with it. So yeah, we're gonna get started here and just start the gluing. So this is where the assembly line starts. So I obviously will not take you through. Maybe it's not a good time to try out a new glue. Why isn't this working actually? Yes, I won't make you watch me cover each and every journal here with the fabric, but I'm gonna try my best to keep up with, I'm gonna use this one, with telling you how long things take so that you will have a good idea, for me, someone that's been doing this for such a long time, how long this entire journal collection process takes. And I do have to stop and start quite a bit. I have kids, I have busy, you know, schedule, and that is actually really hard for someone with ADHD, the stopping and going, because I'll get into a rhythm, and then when I have to stop that rhythm, it really interrupts, you know, my flow. And I'm sure a lot of people deal with that. Okay, this doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to be also covering it, you know, with the patchwork fabric, which we're gonna do at a separate time. But so for this step, I'm just going to be covering them and cutting down the sides to wrap the fabric all the way around, if that makes sense. And just in case, like, if this is somehow your first time watching a journal be made and you're interested in making like a single journal, I have many more tutorials that will be from start to finish that would probably be a better fit for you. However, I invite anyone who wants to watch. Okay, so we'll go glue around the edges, and then what I'm going to do in between each journal is I will lay it flat and probably put some like heavy books on it so that it will dry completely flat. Otherwise it may get a bit wrinkled up. And I am going to be also sewing these journals, but we're going to do all of the sewing together as well. All right, I think now is the best time to blast the music and continue this process right here. And I'll see you back when I either get done with 22 of these or when I am bored enough to move on to one of the next packs of embellishments that we can start creating. And oh, I guess I'm trying to think of all the things to tell you. One other thing I can mention is when I do decide to work between a few of the steps of this whole journal making process, that is usually when I will start a to-do list, because that way it can be hard if you take an hour break in between, or even for me overnight or in the next day, it can be really hard coming back to a big project like this and just exactly remembering where you left off. And so I find that for me, creating a to-do list is really helpful. So when I get to that point and I am going to create a to-do list, I'll kind of show you how I organize that onto paper as well. Just making sure to smooth these out best I can. It is once again the next day, and I worked on these covers for hours, trying to remember where we left off. And I have all of the fabrics glued to the covers. Some of them are still drying. In fact, so I have a pile here that I'm trying to dry flat before I wrap the edges around. So just wanted to kind of show you where I was with that. But I am ready to move on to a new step, and I'm just gonna set these aside. So I told you sometimes I'll kind of go back and forth between projects, and I want to move on to getting the packs started, the embellishment packs, before I move on to adding the patchwork. So I have made a little to-do list, because now that I will have to come back to this project, I can mark off fabric glued to the covers, but I have went ahead and I wrote down a few more things that I need to do to complete these journals. And again, I am starting with like one of the bigger projects for this entire journal collection, or these journal packs, so I feel fine going back and forth. So I will need to add patchwork fabric and the closures to these journals. I need to cut down the pages, bind, and I need to make the little bulldog charms like this. So I have that written down, so I'm confident that I won't, I won't waste any time wondering where I started and where I left off with these. So I'm gonna set those completely aside. And we're gonna move on to the embellishment packs, is what we're gonna call these. Now, one thing I still will need to do, and I'm gonna actually write this on my list, is I will need to make little number labels, because I want to number each of these embellishment packs. And I know that I won't forget that, but it still helps me out to have everything really written down. So I'm going to just write down, I'll know what I mean by number labels for embellishment packs, we'll say. And I still haven't even actually completely figured out how I want to number these, like with what kind of labels. I have a few ideas, but let's move on now. And I am just going to start with this right here. So we are going to recreate this little embellishment pack 22 times. And so I grabbed the appropriate materials that I needed that were real easy to get to. And so this is a little music envelope, first of all, with some washi tape. And inside is a little pocket. I called it a wallpaper pocket, but it's not actually wallpaper. It's added some Tim Holtz paper, embellished with some lace and a little label, and then just a little journaling card on the inside. So we're gonna get started, and I do want to figure out what size this is, because I have my music paper here, and I will need to start cutting this down for my envelopes. And one thing I'm gonna change up is that these were sewn, but I think I'm actually going to utilize my cute little mini stapler for this project. So let's go ahead and get the trimmer over and start cutting down the pages. Okay, so I will need to cut these down to 10 inches by about 6 1/4. So I have the rest of my 22 pages here, and I am just going to try to cut these down in tacks as much as I can. So we'll do, I'm gonna do a little bit more than 6 1/4, and that's the nice thing about these being handmade is I can change it up as I go for whatever works the best. Definitely saving all of these scraps for projects later. And then down to 10 inches. So I'll just set those to the side and keep cutting. This is about the time that my work desk starts to get real dirty. So now this is pretty simple. I'm gonna go through and fold all of these into thirds and just set them aside. And then there's only a few steps to making these. And sometimes I will just put one next to where I'm working. That way I can kind of use it as a guide. Whoops, I'm going the opposite way. But for the most part, I'm not trying to make each of these like exactly alike. And I already know that they are a good size that will work for the embellishment that will be going inside of them. So I'm just gonna go through it kind of as quickly as I can. Yeah, it seems faster just to fold them in thirds and not worry about the exact size. I feel like on something like this, when you have it already cut down to the size that you need, it's pretty easy to kind of eyeball it. But of course, if you are someone who like wants things to be an exact size, I would probably just use a scoreboard and then go through and score each one. That way you can more quickly fold in an exact place. And I'm not too worried also about like which way the music print is going. But these are all things that kind of make it possible for me to move quickly in an assembly line. As I'm not really so caught up in all of the little details. I mean, I am caught up in details, but not like perfection when it comes to like size and measurements. I put my focus more into the details of like decorating, I think. As I go, I usually find little things that help me with like shortcuts. So here's one. I'll take a group of like 5 or 6, whatever I picked up, and you can just fold them all together like that. And then it's super easy just to, you know, take them apart like that. And then I'll just kind of keep doing that with the rest of them. Of course, the bigger the pile, the less precise that they will be. But again, we're not trying to make each one exactly alike, so it's fine. Depending on how lengthy the project is that I'm working on for assembly line, I'll usually have the prototype out so I can kind of you know, look at it as a guideline when I'm going. So the next step, we have all of them folded. I'm gonna try to bring you guys back a little bit here. It is getting real messy though. I'm gonna go through now, and on these ones I have the corners rounded, and I do feel like it makes a difference, but I'm debating if I want to round the corner up here too. So that's probably, I'll probably try one and see. Well, it's tempting to finish the other steps on this too. I try to keep in mind that the whole assembly line technique really does help, so stick to it kind of thing. But you do have to be more patient because it's less gratifying in the moment. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go through with some extra corner rounding, but I like the look, so I'm just gonna go through each one now, round the corners. And this is something too, maybe you can do more than one together, but I will keep in mind that since they're not going to be the perfect sizes, it might be a little harder, might not really save any time, but I will give it a try. I'll see you back here when these are all rounded. About 20 minutes later, we are all done with the corner rounding, and now I'm going to go through and ink up each of these just kind of lightly around the edges with the Distress Oxide and Cracked Pistachio. And so I'm going to go through that. And I am debating too on this one. I have washi tape. By the way, I'm at the sewing machine, so apologies for all the shadows, but this is where I'm at right now. I have a couple washi tapes I'm wanting to use. I'm not always a big fan of washi tape as an adhesive on its own. So I'm trying to debate if I'm actually going to add washi tape or if I want to change that up. I do think I like it. I think it adds to something, or I think it adds something to it. So let's see here. Just because this is kind of a lot of steps for just the envelope, but I think it adds something, so I probably will. So I'll work on inking and adding washi tape. Okay, I'm actually gonna add a different step because as I'm going along, you know, I get ideas, and I feel like the ink is not adding that much. So I got the idea to grab a Christmassy stencil, and I'm going to see how I like that, because ultimately it's not going to add that much time if I already have the ink out. So I'm going to try one. I know I won't hate it, so if I try it and don't love it, then that's fine that I did it to one. Just want it to be lightly on there. The lighting's bad, so it's hard for you guys to see, but if I had snowflakes, I almost feel like that would be better. I could not find snowflakes, but again, it's hard to see in this lighting. I found this sweater design here. It's by Tim Holtz, and I don't see the name of this one, but I'm gonna go ahead and use that. So I will just go through now, and I kind of have to get back into a rhythm. So I think even instead of adding it to the sides or the outer edges, I think I'm just going to try this now. And I am trying to use a darker ink so that this can be kind of like a quick little wash of ink. And I'm going to do the stenciling kind of random, so it doesn't have to be perfect, because it's just adding a little detail to my packaging. Yes, love that. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just do this to all of them. And this is why I will sometimes change my designs kind of up as I go along, because I find something that I just don't love, and I'm fine with changing it up in the middle and keeping some of them one way versus some another. I don't usually find that I like absolutely hate something and need to ever start over completely. Now, sometimes I will totally miss something and, you know, mess something up or not really think of one little detail. The detail that I missed was I am trying to make absolutely everything made for these journals. I want them to be able to fit into the journal, so it needs to be this size or smaller. Now that doesn't really travel over to the packaging, the envelopes and things like that. I guess I was okay with any of the packaging being a little bit bigger, assuming that that won't be used in here. However, since these are more of a handmade packaging item, I did make the first one able to fit, like it's bound just the same size. And so when I went to make these, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make them just slightly bigger so that it's a little easier to fit the tag or pocket inside here. And so, you know, I made them just slightly taller. And so now it's kind of where I decide, well, do I want to trim this down, assuming that the recipient is also going to want to use this? Or is it even okay that it's just slightly bigger? Because I'm always okay having something inside a journal with like just barely the top peeking out if it's something like that. But those are little details that tend to maybe add on a little bit more time. So I have to make that decision like super quick before I move on here. And, you know, I think I'm going to just be okay with it. I think I am, because again, this isn't necessarily the embellishment item for the day. It's going to be what's inside the envelope. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and just keep these the same size so I don't have to cut them down. And no, I'm going to go trim them down. Okay, that only added on about 10 minutes or so, but now what I have to do is go back through and around the corners on just that one side where I trimmed it off. I was able to trim quite a few of them at once. So I'm going to go through and finish that up. The part that will really add on a lot of time is if I keep doing that throughout. So that is why it is pretty important to make sure that my prototype is like exactly what I wanted for size and reasoning, because sometimes when I am going through and doing these quick assembly line reenactments, that's not the word, but you know, I'm not always going to be thinking clearly about what the end product needs to be. But not to say that sometimes that's just gonna happen, because it just will. Now I'm gonna go through and staple these sides, and I'm just gonna do a pretty simple, probably 2 staples on each side, just enough to keep them shut, because I'm going to be putting like a larger item, nothing teeny tiny, so I don't have to worry about that, or worry about anything like getting through the little small cracks in the side, or openings I guess you would call it. And since I also got these new stencils out that I used for the envelope, I'll also keep those out with my materials, because I do like everything in these packs to flow together, and I may end up now using that stencil on some of the other things that I am going to be making. So with this one, I picked kind of a lengthier one to get started with for the embellishment packs, because we are making the outer packaging and then also the actual handmade embellishment for this pack, which we haven't even got to the actual embellishment yet, and we have to change the staples, so we'll stop here now. So I have decided to come back to adding the washi tape and decide if it's worth my time, because these did take a little longer than I was kind of expecting. So okay, so that took another about 15 minutes to finish the stapling, and so now we're going to move on to the actual handmade embellishment inside. So it's this little pocket here, and I am going to get started with just the base of it, which is using these Tim Holtz baseboard papers, I think they're called. And I just actually need to cut each one in half. So I will go through and do that on my trimmer. And I'll give you the exact size measurements in a minute. Or right now, let's see. It's going to end up being 5 inches. And I don't remember this way. 5 inches by 6. Now I can just go through and make one fold for these, and I'll decide which will be the outside and the inside. And if I want, I can always use this as a guide for where to fold, but these are another item that it doesn't have to be so specific. I will get my bone folder out, because this is a thicker cardstock, and we're just going to set that aside. And these will have rounded corners. They will be sewn, and then I have the labels and lace already out and ready for that. And we haven't forgot that we have to go back to the covers. I'm always like kind of thinking these things through. When I'm working on one, I'm always thinking of what do I need to do next, because sometimes it's more convenient to do some other part of the whole assembly line while I'm doing something else. But for this, at least in this video, I want to at least completely finish one part of this. So we will get through this first embellishment pack in this video. I don't know if we will get through the journal covers. There's quite a bit more work to do with those, but either way, you're gonna see the entire process at some point. So I'll see you back here once I have these all folded. I have all of these folded, and now I am just cutting down the last of the papers that I need for the little journaling card insert. So these are 3x3, and I just like that they're a little bit of a unique size for a journaling card. And so I've started cutting down the little 3x3 squares, and I just have a few more papers to cut over to my side here before I will do the final step, which will be sewing on the lace, the label, and then sewing this pocket shut. So I've brought everything over to my sewing machine, and I will just finish cutting the cardstock down. I just need to cut all of these lace pieces in half. I cut out 11 of them, so since they are double as wide of a piece of lace that I need, I'm just gonna cut them all in half, and then they'll be the perfect size that I need. A lot of times with lace, you can bundle up quite a bit and fold it in half. And so this is just one little shortcut that I'm taking, and then I'll just cut that entire bundle in half. And honestly, I feel like that cuts it straighter anyways. Okay, I'll just pile these up so it's easy to grab. These will all be just a little bit different, but I am basically just going to put the lace down on the center of the pocket and just do one sewing line down the center. Trying to hold it at a weird angle while I'm filming. I'm also at the same time going to sew on the label. And then I'm going to sew the pocket shut by one down there and one on the top. And so I'm just going to repeat that now for all of the rest of these. So it's been about a total of an hour and a half. I also cut down and included the little, or you already saw me cut down, but I rounded the corners of the little journaling cards. So these are all complete, and now I'm gonna go ahead and just pack the envelopes. I came up with this little ephemera pack, or actually I was gifted it from Lori. I'm gonna go ahead and take these out, and since I have so many things this month that were like donated to me or like given to me as Happy Mail, I'm going to try to include as many like extra little surprises in each envelope when I can. So I'm just gonna put one of those with it. Again, I feel like the more you can add in each little pack, even if it's not a handmade embellishment, is a fun little surprise. So we'll finish these off, and then I'm pretty excited that we will have this entire embellishment pack finished. And I am thinking that after this, I don't want to have too many half-done projects. So I'm going to go back to finishing the fabric, what am I trying to say? Oh, see the fabric covers. Okay, real quick. I love the idea of including one of these with each of the pockets here, because even as I'm doing this, I mean, they're all a little bit different, but this could be really cute added on the pocket somehow. The top, you know, of course it can go on a different part of your journal, but I like that idea of having them together. So that will just hopefully inspire even more. Like, how cute. See, and I could just include that, but no, I think it's more fun to just go ahead. I can even put it in the pocket. I don't know. I'll do each one a little bit differently. I'm trying to think. So I think you guys may have seen in one of the clips that my printer broke in the middle of all of this, and I'm not using too many printables for these journal packs, but I am using some. And so that was such a bummer to have that break, but I just got off the phone with tech support, did all the troubleshooting. Unfortunately, it's actually broke. So I have to buy a new printer in the midst of all of this, which is definitely not expected. It's a bummer, but I need it. And so that's just one of those little problems that can arise once in a while. These are such cute little die cuts. Okay, I'm gonna finish packing these up and then we'll meet back here. 1 down, 11 to go. Okay, so we have completed, I finished all of the fabric covers. I had to wrap the fabrics around some of the edges to complete that. So that's done. These covers aren't done, but that's step. So I'm gonna set these aside, and I really want to be able to finish one more complete pack, at least in this video. So we're gonna go with one that's a little easier to prep, and that is going to be this lace pack. I used a policy envelope and I don't really like how it looks, but in here is basically a little lace pack, some doilies fabric, and some buttons. I'm going to, instead of these policy envelopes, my dog's barking, I'm going to use these little cuties to put the lace in. These are so cute. They're double-sided. I got them from Amazon. Anyways, so I will go ahead and start prepping the lace packs. I ended up adding some Christmas buttons and charms. Can't remember if I showed you that in the last clip. And so that they're not floating around openly in these bags, I am also going to individually wrap them. It takes more time, but I think that these small details really add a lot of value to journal packs like this. So I'm just gonna kind of quickly, I'll take the adhesive off of these later, but I'm gonna add 1 Christmas button, 2 of the whites, a bulb pin to go along with a Christmas charm. So I'll package these all up and then we can package up the entire lace pack. 35 minutes later, finally ready to finalize these lace packs. So each pack's going to get a snippet of this fabric, kind of vintage looking Santa, a doily, there's a couple different color possibilities, this crocheted lace, 2 of this white and gold lace, 1 piece of this smaller, really cute though, green. This is an actual vintage lace that I thought would be cute for a pocket or something. And then this one right here, along with 1 of these packets. So I'm just going to basically bundle these up kind of like that, and then fit it into these super cute craft bags. There's probably a lot of fun ways that I could have packaged up the lace to have it be really nice, but I think that I am happy with this amount of time and energy that I've am putting into these packs. So I am just going to probably fold that over, finish these up, and then I'll just come back because it's going to be redundant, and I'll let you know how much time has passed before we can end this video. That took 25 minutes and I was gonna leave them like this, but I got the idea to finish off the packaging like this. So I am going to take the extra time to do that. So I'll just show you real quick. These are little details that definitely add on more time for me, but I have gotten to know myself well enough to kind of know that I will always add on free time to do things like this. So I wrap the doily around the top, do a simple staple, and then I'm going to cover that staple up with a little sticker. And those seem pretty sticky, so I think those will be great. So yes, like I said, I've gotten to know myself well enough to know I always have to add on extra time for details that I hadn't thought about prior. So I will finish this up, and this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to show you in this part of this series. Remember, I am going to show you the complete series, so you can stay tuned for the next the next part of this, and I'll probably focus in on some certain part of it. So I thank you guys so much for hanging around, and I can't wait to see you in the next. Have a good day, guys. Bye.